Prague is a fairy tale town of magical beauty, located in the very heart of Europe. The river Vltava flows through Prague for 31 kilometers, and at its widest measures 330 meters. The Vltava forms islands and meanders as it flows through the city, adding to its charm and idyll. The capital city of the Czech Republic is situated on an intersection of ancient merchant routes, traversing the European continent. Centuries of construction gave rise to an exceptionally integrated architectural complex, unique in the world in terms of size and concentration of cultural heritage. Different architectural styles mingle and intertwine here, and their symbiosis creates the city's unique atmosphere. The Cathedral of St Vitus is Prague's largest and most important church. Its neo-Gothic facade with 2 spires is adorned with 14 statues of Czech saints, the Emperor Charles IV, and Archbishop Arnost of Pardubice. St. Vitus's rose window is relatively new, dating from the 1920s, and depicts scenes from the biblical creation story. The 3 portals leading to the nave have tympanums decorated with reliefs, as is the bronze gate. The design of the cathedral was entrusted to French architect Matthias of Arras and inspired by classical French cathedrals. After Arras's death in 1356, Peter Parlor continued construction on the cathedral. The golden portal with 3 arches on the southern side of the 3rd castle courtyard. The space above the golden portal is decorated with a unique mosaic made of about 1 million glass grits in more than 30 shades of color. It depicts Christ in the center, surrounded by angels. The southern lookout tower, 97 meters in height, has a Renaissance gallery 56 meters above the ground. It was built in the 14th century, but never finished. The Cathedral of St. Vitus consists of a central nave flanked by narrow aisles with small chapels and a northern transept. The chapels are illuminated by the light passing through the stained glass windows, which depict various sacred scenes. Located in the north transept, the organ and the architecture around it is markedly more ornamental in style than the Gothic tracery of the window behind it, or the Gothic and Neo-Gothic style that dominates the rest of the church. The so-called Parlors Vaults or net vaults have double diagonal ribs that span the width of the choir bay. The intersecting pairs of ribs create a net-like construction, which considerably strengthens the vault. They also give a lively ornamentation to the ceiling, as the interlocking vaulted bays create a dynamic zigzag pattern down the length of the cathedral. The history of the Cathedral of St. Vitus is almost as old as that of Prague Castle itself. The first church on the site of the present-day cathedral was built by Wenceslas I, Duke of Bohemia. The church was destroyed by Prince Spitanav II in 1060 and replaced by a newer Romanesque basilica. On the occasion of the promotion of Prague's bishopric to archbishopric in 1344, King John of Luxembourg and later King Charles IV began the construction of a larger cathedral in the Gothic style. In the following centuries, many attempts were made to finish the cathedral. It was finally completed only in the 20th century, thanks to the Union for the Completion of the Cathedral of St. Vitus in Prague, founded in 1873. The cathedral was completed in 1929 on the occasion of the millennium anniversary of St. Wenceslas, the patron saint of the Czech people. St. George Basilica and Convent is the second oldest church in Prague, originally dating from the late 10th century, and the oldest building within the castle. Its lovely facade dates from the early Baroque period. Later, at the beginning of the 18th century, the architect F.M. Kanka designed a new Baroque chapel dedicated to St. John of Nepomuc. The church was heavily damaged in the late 18th century during the occupation of Emperor Joseph II's troops, though it was subsequently restored to its original Romanesque and Baroque features. After over a millennium of turbulent history, the Convent of St. George is now home to a collection of Bohemian Gothic art. The church was enlarged during the 13th century with the addition of a portico on its western side and a chapel dedicated to St. Ludmilla. Prague's Little Quarter is a unique neighborhood surrounding the Prague Castle, its narrow streets rich in Baroque and Renaissance architecture. Built for defensive reasons, Prague's medieval walls create a very romantic atmosphere, with many dark corners, towers, bastions, and other unusual architectonic elements. The Prague Castle complex is a national cultural monument, the symbol of the more than 1,000-year history of the Czech state. The castle complex has continued developing without interruption since its foundation in the 9th century. This Baroque-style palace on the castle square was built at the end of the 18th century as a residence for Count Sternberg, a leading member of the Bohemian aristocracy. Today it houses the Czech National Gallery's exhibition of early European art. The Prague Castle complex contains several courtyards and squares. Guarded by 2 castle soldiers, the Matthias Gate from 1614 is the entrance to the castle's first courtyard. Each hour, a changing of the guard ceremony takes place at the gates, in which 2 new guards are brought in, and the 2 guards who have finished their shift leave the gates. The gate is decorated with statues of fighting giants and vases designed by Ferdinand Platzer. This door leads to the second courtyard, with Cole's Fountain and the Holy Cross Chapel. This sandstone fountain is one of the castle's oldest fountains, dating from 1686. Designed by Hieronymus Cole, it is also called the Lion Fountain, or Leopold's Fountain. Narodova, the Royal Way or King's Road, is a historic street linking Prague Castle to the Charles Bridge, via Mala Strana. Buildings used to be identified with house signs above the main door. Many fine examples of this tradition can be seen along Nerudova. Malostranske náměstí, or Lesser Town Square, lies at the heart of Mala Strana and has been the hub of this side of Prague since the 10th century. In the center of the square rises a plague column. The Black Death, which ravaged Europe in the 14th century, largely and mysteriously bypassed that area that is now the Czech Republic. Prague has 3 churches dedicated to St. Nicholas. Construction of St. Nicholas Church at Malostranské náměstí began in 1703. This is the largest of Prague's Jesuit churches. The belfry, constructed by Anselmo Lorago, was the last part to be built. St. Nicholas is the masterpiece of Christoph and Kilian Ignaz Dietzenhofer, a father and son duo who constructed many buildings during the Baroque period. The Charles Bridge is a 14th century stone bridge linking the 2 sides of Prague. This magnificent structure is one of the city's finest monuments and the main pedestrian route connecting the Old Town with Malá Strana and Prague Castle. The construction of this magical bridge was begun by Master Otto and continued by King Charles's favorite architect and builder, Peter Parler. "30 Baroque statues and statuary standing on parapets line both sides of the bridge. Some of the statues, erected around 1700, were damaged by floods over the centuries and replaced by replicas. The bridge, 516 meters long and nearly 10 meters wide, is supported by 16 arches shielded by ice guards. Construction of the bridge as we see it today dates from the reign of Charles IV, King of Bohemia and Holy Roman Emperor in the 14th century. The 2 towers of the Charles Bridge on the lesser quarter side differ in size and style. The shorter one is a remnant of the collapsed Judith Bridge, which was built in 1158 in the Romanesque style. The taller one, dating from 1464, is representative of the Gothic period and the work of Peter Parler. The Old Town Bridge Tower was built at the end of the 14th century, according to a design by Peter Parler, the favorite architect of Emperor Charles IV. It took about 25 years and roughly 100 stonecutters to build it. Coats of arms of the countries under Charles IV's domain decorate the area above the gateway. Statues on the first floor represent St. Vitus, the patron of the Charles Bridge, the Emperor Charles IV, and Wenceslas IV. These excellent works of art from around 1380 were probably the work of Michael Savoyan. The gateway to the Old Town Bridge Tower is 8 meters wide and about 47 meters high. A statue of Charles IV stands in the Knight of the Cross Square, located at the east end of the Charles Bridge in Prague's Old Town. The Church of St. Francis of Assisi is located in the very heart of Prague, right next to the Charles Bridge. The Baroque cupolas of the church emerge spectacularly from the vast sea of the city's roofs. The Clementinum is the second largest complex of buildings in the city, after Prague Castle, covering a total area of 20,000 square meters. The complex was originally built in the Baroque style, but was modernized and expanded during the neoclassical period to include libraries, an observatory, and 2 churches. The Municipal Hall stands on Mariánské Square. Built between 1906 and 1912 on the site of the Royal Court, it is Prague's most prominent Art Nouveau building. Above the main entrance is the huge mosaic Homage to Prague by Karel Spiller. The Glam Galas Palace, a pearl of Baroque architecture, is located in Prague's Old Town. Among Prague's most beautiful palaces, it was projected by the imperial court architect Johann Bernhard Fischer von Erlach from Vienna and built by Italian architect Domenico Cannavale in 1713. It was the site of splendid balls and concerts during the 18th century, attended by the likes of Mozart and Beethoven. Some of Prague's squares are large, like Wenceslas Square, while others are small, like Stanovazne Square. It is easy to walk through Prague's squares without knowing their names or why they are significant, but it is difficult not to appreciate their beauty. These squares can be used as landmarks and are often surrounded by important monuments. The Old Town Square is one of two main squares in the city center. With its ancient buildings and magnificent churches, this is one of Europe's most sublime historical sites. Dating back to the late 12th century, the Old Town Square was originally Prague's central marketplace. Over the next few centuries, many buildings in the Romanesque, Baroque, and Gothic styles were erected around the market. The Old Town Square's most notable site is the splendid Church of St. Nicholas, completed in 1735. It replaced a parish church, mentioned in records dating back as early as 1273. The Baroque church is decorated with sculptures by Antonin Braun. Between 1870 and 1914, the Church of St. Nicholas was used as a Russian Orthodox church. During the Second World War, artists set to work restoring the church under the surveillance of Czech army units stationed there. The interior design was inspired by the chapel of Saint-Louis des Invalides in Paris. The delicate stucco decoration was executed by Bernardo Spinetti, while the frescoes were painted by Viennese artist Jan Lucas Kraker. Some of the church's other frescoes are the work of F. X. Palco, one of the most acclaimed artists of the era, though most of the paintings adorning the church were done by Karel Skreta. His series of 10 paintings in the church gallery date from the 17th century. St. Nicholas's interior decoration was removed in 1781 after Emperor Joseph II ordered the closure of all monasteries without a social function. The Church of Our Lady, or Tin Church, dominates one side of the Old Town Square. The twin spires of this imposing Gothic church can be seen from all over Prague. The Church of Our Lady before Tin stands on the site of a Romanesque church dating from the 11th century, built for the merchants coming to the nearby Tin courtyard. The earlier church was much smaller than the present one. The present large church was built in the 14th century by stonemasons under the direction of Peter Parlor and Matthias of Arras. Its towers, gable, and roof were not completed until the 15th century. Many houses lining the old streets of Prague's historical center were originally built in the Gothic style, and some of them even contain remnants of earlier Romanesque buildings. The astronomical clock, dating to the 15th century, stands on the Old Town Square on the site of the Old Town Hall Tower. The name of the clock's true designer was discovered in 1961 in an old document describing the astronomical dial and attributing its design to Nicholas of Kadaň in 1410. He may have cooperated with the astronomer and Charles University professor Jan Sindel. Wooden figures of apostles with their attributes appear in the windows as the hour is struck. At the same time, some of the sculptures begin to move. The astronomical dial shows the medieval conception of the universe, with the Earth at its center. The dial's 3 circles each display a different time. The outer circle with Schwabacher numerals shows the Old Czech or Italian time. The circle with Roman numerals displays Central European time, while the inner circle with Arabic numerals shows Babylonian time. The city hall was the center for the administration of Prague's Old Town, beginning in the 14th century. King John of Luxembourg sanctioned the building of the Old Town City Hall in 1338. The Old Town citizens bought a private Gothic house from Wolflin of Cayman for this purpose. Many of the homes in Prague's Old Town were renovated during the late Renaissance and Baroque periods, creating a collage of architectural styles. Some homes have Gothic arbors typical of the 13th century, while others have arched gables from the Renaissance era. Gold's Kinski Palace, with its beautiful pink and white stucco facade, was built for Jan Arnold Goltz between 1755 and 1765. Goltz had it built as a Rococo palace with 2 entrances framed by pillars. The large monument in the middle of the Old Town Square is a statue of the reformer Jan Hus, one of the most important personalities in Czech history. 100 years before the Protestant Reformation was started by Martin Luther, Jan Hus was burnt as a heretic for his reform ideas. Leading from the Old Town Square to the Powder Gate, this bright and gently curving street is full of souvenir shops, small cafes, and restaurants, all housed in picturesque buildings in various architectonic styles. Selina Street is a part of the royal route, the coronation route of Czech kings that ends at Prague Castle. This street was named after the plated bread rolls that were once baked there. The street is decorated with house signs that served as a means of telling the houses apart. During the day, the street is full of life, while at night it is lit by romantic gas lamps. Selina Street is situated just behind the arch of the Powder Tower. The construction of the 65-meter-tall Powder Tower began in 1475 under the reign of King Vladislav II Jagiello, and for several centuries was known as the New Tower. During the Middle Ages, it served as a gate to the city. The Municipal House, a national cultural landmark, is among Prague's most significant buildings in the Art Nouveau style. It is located in the very center of Prague, next to the Powder Gate. The Municipal House is a mixture of several 19th century architectural styles, including the Neo-Renaissance, Neo-Baroque, and especially the Art Nouveau. At the time of its construction, it was considered a very modern and technologically advanced building. The mosaic adorning the space above the main entrance is called Prague Apotheosis. Allegorical sculptures representing the nation stand at the sides of the entrance, while a balcony is situated under the mosaic. Designed by Antonín Balsánek and Oswald Polívka, and built on the former site of the Royal Court Palace, the Municipal House is a popular monument. The large building boasts a stunning concert hall, a grand café and restaurant, as well as exhibition halls, meeting rooms, and a basement bar. The beauty is in the details of the Municipal House, including intricate gilded decorations, gorgeous ceramics, vivid stained glass windows, and colorful murals depicting the history of the Czech lands. By the end of the 19th century, it had become obvious that Prague needed a multi-purpose building that would also express its now predominantly Czech character, a circumstance leading to the construction of the Municipal House. It also served to remind Prague's German community that they could no longer regard this part of the city as exclusively theirs. Prague's first inhabitants arrived during the early Stone Age. The hills over the Vltava River were first settled by members of an unknown tribe. Their descendants gradually settled the entire area around the Vltava meander, the shape of which, that of the letter P, symbolized the settlement's future name. The metamorphosis of the fragmented agglomeration below the castle into a fortified and privileged medieval city took 3 centuries. Prague officially became a city at the end of the 12th century. A period of great prosperity and growth came under the reign of Charles IV, who made Prague one of the greatest centers of the Holy Roman Empire. The Jerusalem Synagogue, also called the Jubilee Synagogue, was built in 1906 in the new town. The facade of this structure is colorful and delights with detail. Stripes, scrollwork, and pillars make the synagogue a remarkable example of early 20th century architecture. Jędryska Street connects Prague's three principal squares: Wenceslas Square, Charles Square, and Synovazne Square. The Jędryska Square dates from the late Gothic period. Originally constructed between 1472 and 1476, it has been rebuilt and remodeled several times. Jędryska was rebuilt in the Baroque style following a major fire in 1745, though it was reconverted back to the Gothic style by the famous architect Macher in the 1870s. Knapp Recopa Street is a promenade connecting Wenceslas Square with Republic Square. It is one of Prague's most important shopping and banking districts. Knapp Recopa means in the ditch, because for centuries there was a ditch here separating the old town from the new town. Prague is called a textbook of architecture. Almost every architectural style from the 10th century until the present day is represented within the city center. A few examples of its architectural styles are Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, Classical, Art Nouveau, Cubism, Functionalism, and Modern architecture. The carefully planned new town was founded by Charles IV in 1348. Twice as large as the old town, it was mainly inhabited by tradesmen and craftsmen. During the late 19th century, its outer fortifications were demolished and rebuilt to their present appearance. The architectural majesty of Knapp Recopa Street spans 1,000 years. A walk along its beautiful Renaissance frescoes that alternate with solid Baroque palaces and medieval houses is like wandering through the city's rich history. The Rudolfinum was built by the banking institution Böhmische Sparkasse, Czech Savings Bank, on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. Named Rudolfinum after the Crown Prince Rudolf, it was intended as a monumental house of arts with a picture gallery, concert halls, and a collection of antiquities. The impressive Neo-Renaissance building was built by several important Czech architects of the 19th century: Josef Zitek, who also built the National Theater, and Josef Schultz, who designed the National Museum. The building was opened in 1885. Between 1919 and 1939, the Rudolfinum was the seat of the Chamber of Deputies of the National Assembly. It was renamed the House of Artists in 1918, when the name of the Habsburg monarch Rudolf became politically unacceptable. Wenceslas Square, or Vaclavské náměstí, is one of the two main squares in the city center. The 750-meter-long and 60-meter-wide boulevard that makes up Wenceslas Square was laid out over 600 years ago, during the reign of Charles IV. Saint Wenceslas was a beloved Czech king from the 10th century, remembered for propagating Christianity throughout his realm. Legend has it that he was murdered while on his way to morning religious services by the mercenaries sent by his brother Boleslav. Over the centuries, he has become the symbol of Czech history and nationhood. His feast day, September 27th, is an important holiday for the citizens of Prague. Prague's National Museum is set in a commanding position at the top of Wenceslas Square, dominating the whole area. The largest and oldest museum in the Czech Republic, on some evenings it provides a grand setting for classical music concerts. This monumental building in the Neo-Renaissance style was designed by Josef Schultz as an architectural symbol of the Czech national revival. Centuries of construction gave rise to an exceptionally integrated architectural complex, unique in the world in terms of size and concentration of cultural heritage. Different architectural styles mingle and intertwine here, and their symbiosis creates the city's unique atmosphere. The most valuable part of the city's center was declared the Prague Heritage Reserve in 1981 and was included in UNESCO's World Cultural Heritage List in 1992.